Pandora Hearts is a great manga, one of my personal favorite. It tugged on my heartstrings like no other, and could always surprise me until the very end. Jun Mochizuki, its author, is, in my humble opinion, a master of plot twist, but that is probably because of her amazing cast of characters. A good plot twist is fun, but when it happens to a character that you deeply care for, it can become something truly grand. I have wanted to do a video on PH since the beginning of this channel when I was still a teen, but this manga has so much to give that I could never get past the writing of a script. I had simply too much to say. So I decided to make sections, talk about one topic at a time, probably one character at a time. But since I don't know what the future will be like, I will start with the one I really want to talk about, Jack Vessalius. One of the most frustrating things when being a PH fan is the anime. It is not a bad one, but it ends in the middle of the plot of the books, and for a story that is at its core a mystery like PH, it is truly a terrible mistake, because most anime fans only saw the anime and considered PH to be an okay story when it is so much better. And I believe nothing illustrates this better than the character of Jack. Now, I have to tell you, this video will massively spoil. I'm the kind of person who likes to explain things fully without holding back, and that is what I intend to do here. If you are currently reading or wanted to start reading PH, maybe you should wait a bit before watching this video. But if you were interested by the series and wanted to get a taste of it, if you watched the anime and never had the time to read the manga, or if you are just looking for a deep dive into one of the best characters of Pandora Hearts, you are in the good place for that. Jack, the Legend. The world of Pandora Hearts is of European inspiration but is far from our own. 100 years ago, the then capital that reigned over the country fell down to its doom. And I mean that very literally, like 1 minute the capital is there, then poof, gone. That event has been called the Tragedy of Sablier. The country, now deprived of its leaders, fell in great chaos. But then 4 heroes rose and pulled the country out of the trouble it had fallen into. Those 4 heroes and their families were then chosen to govern this new post-tragedy world. There was the Dukedom of Parma, Rainsworth, Nitre, and the Vessalius. Well, the Rainsworth didn't actually do anything during the tragedy and were invited to join the other dukedoms after, and the Nitres were believed to be traitors, but I'm getting off track. So yes, Jack Vessalius was the hero of the Vessalius house who saved the country from the tragedy. Even if this country has 4 leaders, the Vessalius house is always the one with the most influence and support due to the action of their ancestor. Jack was said to be a born leader. This fact is proven in chapter 22, when the protagonist, Os Vessalius, who is the reincarnation of Jack, gets possessed by his past life, as he was going to be arrested by the Pandora organization, but after hearing only a few commands from Jack, all the agents of Pandora had to bow down to his will. By his mere presence and a few words, his orders were followed without question, 100 years after his death. That is what the legend of Jack, the hero of the Tragedy of Sablier, is. But what about the man himself? Jack, the man. As I said, Jack has been dead for centuries when this story begins, and so we only see the real Jack in flashbacks, or rather, in the pieces of memories of Alice scattered around. And we are pleasantly surprised to not see a perfect being who is destined for greatness, but rather a goofy and clumsy boy who rather spent time with friends than anything else. We learned that pre-tragedy, the Vessalius were a lower noble family, and Jack, not being the eldest son, was not seen as much by anyone. He pays no mind to it though, preferring to live a free life without stress or responsibilities, enjoying the simple pleasures of life, such as sunshine and friendship. He even refers to himself not as a Vessalius, but as a humble music box maker, which is his hobby. We also learned that he was close friend with Glenn Baskerville, the one who is responsible for the tragedy of Sablier, a dark figure that seems unapproachable even for his entourage, but that, weirdly, seems to get along greatly with the jokester Jack. Maybe because of Jack's nature, who does not care about status or royal titles and simply enjoys Glenn's company for who he is. Jack even considered Glenn his best friend at the time. Which is why it was heartbreaking for him to have to kill his friend during the tragedy. In doing so, he saved the world and would become a hero for it. But he always insisted to never be called that, because to him, he was no hero. A hero would have saved his friend, not kill him. Discovering that Jack the hero was such a simple, truly good man at his core was very pleasant. He was a normal guy with no ambition that did what he thought was right all his life and became a leader for the new world, not for the glory, but because it had to be done. And the way he resembles the protagonist Oz is flagrant. Jack becomes kind of a supernatural mentor for Oz, who will guide him in his journey to defeat the Baskerville clan that has resurfaced after 100 years of silence. What a great shonen story, is it not? A clear goal, a repetition of history, a clear destiny for our protagonist. But did I not tell you that Jun Mochizuki is a mistress of plot twists? Isn't this too neat? Too simple? Who is Lacie? This character who is constantly mentioned by various characters. And where does she fit in all of this? What is the meaning of this mysterious quote in chapter 65? I don't need friends or status anymore. I only need to have you by my side. Such a romantic declaration, but to who is it intended for? And who declares it? The truth of Jack. Now we are entering major spoiler category. If you think you want to turn away and avoid having major things spoiled, this is your last chance. If you like what you heard so far and are thinking of reading PH, my goal is accomplished, and I wish a happy reading to you. Alright, to those who stayed, first, thank you. And let's continue, shall we? So, who is Jack so far? He was a simple and humble boy who saved the world from a tragedy, but had to kill his best friend to do so. He became a hero to the eyes of the people, but always believed he was not. He is also the past life of Oz Vessalius, the protagonist, who can sometimes interact with his ancestor who guides him in his quest to save the world once again. I truly loved Jack. He was first shown to be so distant, but the more you hear about him, the more you see he's just such a great goofy guy who has an obsession with mandarins for some reason, and that just made you care for him so much more. But what if that was not the truth? What if all that was just a facade? What if we never actually saw the real Jack? History is written by the winners, is it not? In the 16th volume of the manga, we make a shocking discovery. Everything was backward. History, Alice's memory, even Jack himself, they all lied. The one who instigated the tragedy of Sablier 100 years ago was not Glenn Baskerville, but Jack, and Glenn died trying to stop him. This was heartbreaking for me. For those who can't picture it, imagine if you find out that Shanks in One Piece was the big bad guy all along. I felt as cheated as the characters did. This man plagued us all, the people of the country, the noble families, us his descendant, and even Glenn himself, his best friend, who he made out to be the villain of the story after his death.
Now I'm the villain in your history.
This man, who was so caring for all those around him, never cared about a single one of them, and was ready to let them die as soon as he was through with them, and he did, multiple times. No, he did care about one person other than himself. Actually, he loved them immensely more than he ever loved himself. And that person was, you guessed it, Lacie. Lacie was Glenn's sister, a cursed child who saved Jack when he was homeless. Oh, I don't mean she saved him by giving him shelter or money. No. She just made him care about something when he had lost hope completely. After that, Lacie became Jack's sole purpose in life. He integrated the Vessalius house and snuck in the Baskerville manor, only to see her again. The quote I recited before, in its complete form, says this: "To me, the world is a dark night that swallows everything. But since you came in my life, and you were so kind to find me, I don't need status or friends anymore. I only need to have you by my side." The most disturbing thing about this declaration of adoration by Jack is that he means every single word of it, literally. Poetically, it could seem romantic, but it is far from it. It is a twisted, desperate obsession. Especially the part about only needing to be by her side. Lacie didn't care for Jack at all when they got reunited. Anyone in love would have been devastated by this rejection, but not Jack. He simply asked to be able to stay close to her. That is literally all he needed. To be in her simple presence was his dream. It could have been that way forever. Jack would have just creeped over Lacie for all their lives. But, as I said, Lacie was a cursed child, and as such, she had to be sent to the abyss, a hellish dimension. Jack, deprived of his only joy in the world, went completely mad. He decided to plunge the whole world in the abyss to see his Lacie again and bring with him the world she loved. May I remind you, this guy did not even try to doom the world for love, but simply to be in the presence of his love once again. I don't even think he was crazy because his plan was extremely well thought out. So it proved he still had his mind, he just had no care for the entire population of the world. Sadly, this part never made it in the anime, and so in the anime, Jack is still a hero. And to make it even more frustrating, in the last DVD bonus, he gets a happy ending. Okay, it's a weird little special where every character is sent to their happy place thanks to a cell phone, and Jack goes with White Alice, the girl he manipulated, used, lied to, and they go together in their happily ever after. So yes, in the anime, Jack wins. Ugh, PH desperately needs a brotherhood treatment. In conclusion, Pandora Hearts is an amazing manga I recommend to everyone who likes deep and layered characters. And Pandora Hearts the anime, I recommend too, but stop at episode 22. It's for your own good, believe me. So I truly hope you liked this video. Please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you did. And if you liked how I did this and are also a Pandora Hearts fan, tell me, who do you think I should make a video about next? I also have an Instagram and Twitter, links in the description if you thought the little doodles you saw were not too horrible. Thanks again and see you soon.